going on, everybody? Welcome to this special edition of Can We Compare Farming Simulator to Real Life, or How Close Is It? I got a few pit stops I'm going to make, watching some farmers out in my area do some planting, and then we're going to take that and head over to Farming Sim and see how those things compare. Here's living proof, people. Nebraska is not always flat. This gentleman right over here is the one we're going to be going to talk to. And I'm honestly pretty excited because he has one that is a 3-point mounted 12-row. Well, this is my great friend Thomas. We are out with his 12-row Case IH. And how big are the spacings? Are these 30-inch
30-inch.
spacings? They are 30-inch spacings. But Tom, kind of explain how you run your process. So with the 3-point mounted one, I've only seen ones that are like tow-behind trailer styles.
Okay, the 3-point, you do not have as much leeway. You can't really come in and make a sharp turn because you're pushing the planter. It's just too hard on it.
You got a lot of monitors over here. You had the one you were telling me that it shows where you're planting, your mapping, you have your row shutoff since it's a little bit fancier, and you even have a seed tank monitor. How long does that usually take to get this stuff set up?
Oh, half a day.
Really? And how long does it usually take you to get the planter set up?
Oh, the planter set up depends on, this spring I was set up for soybeans and I started planting soybeans. So once I, went through, checked everything, I didn't have to replace any parts. It took me probably an hour and I was ready to plant.
I know over with my buddy Grant and Spencer's, they are Iowa dirt. It's a lot darker than what we got, but they have a good layer of topsoil, and then it goes down to like straight orange, really thick and wet clay. What is the soil type around where your main farm, like where we're at right now? Is this more sandy? Is it just straight clay? Is it rocky?
It's clay and rocks. It's a red clay. This is probably, some of the poorer ground that I have. I had grid sampled every 2.5 acres, and I was just going to have them put 3 ton of lime on because I thought it was poor. And after I came out here, after they put the lime on, I could see there weren't any tracks. I called him and said, how come you never put lime on that? And he said, the pH is 7. That's exactly what it should be. The other nutrients that it's missing.
And those nutrients are
phosphate, potash, zinc, sulfur, then the microbes. My mind isn't working yet all the microbes, but there's like boron, cadmium, other more traces like that.
Yes.
That don't take a lot, but yet it just a few pounds of it can make a difference on the yield.
On this particular ground, what would you say you're going to be getting? Comparing back to my buddies, they can get 280, 300 bushel corn where they're at, but of course us over in Nebraska, we don't have that luxury.
Mm-hmm. I'd say the maximum I can get would probably be 160 on this field, that even though I'm putting in 24,000 plants, and they usually figure 10 bushels per 1,000. So I'm planting for 240, but some of that is because of the terraces here. On another farm that I plant that according to the soil types. So
Okay.
The planter will actually change the population as I'm going to the different soil types.
It's a smart planter.
Yes. Now here, you can see, and if you blow this up, you see a little arrow?
I think so.
That arrow is telling me which direction I planted that field.
Well, that's very convenient.
It is really a smart system.
Do you prefer this 3-point?
I prefer the 3-point. If I drive somewhere, the planter's right behind me. With the others, I had a pull type planter. On some of our steeper side hills, I was actually planting in the tractor track because the planter had that much drift to it.
You can see the actual lines where the planter went through, but because Thomas no-tills, it just looks like he's putting lines in the dirt and not seeding the ground. I personally have never seen the 3-point styles of planters. I've only ever seen the pull types. Now, this is a really cool experience. It works the same concept as Grant's planter with the individually moving row units, but the wings have the flex. 4 individual seed units to each section. And as it moves with these terrains, like up and down the hillsides and the terraces, it can adapt to the soil. It's always fun to watch someone plant because you can stand right next to the thing and not get hit. It's pretty easy. On a 12-row planter, you stand in the 13th row. Run row cleaners at all?
No row cleaners. I don't want to have any kind of a ditch, because no-till, I can plant up and down the hills, and not that I plant a lot of steep hills, but just right there what we came through. That's enough of a slope that if we get a hard rain, it could wash. So I try to keep it just as flat as possible to avoid any kind of washing.
All right, well, speaking of washing, we did just go by the riser.
There's a riser, yes.
How do we do this out here? Because there was a 6-inch submain going down to the creek bed.
There's just one lateral from the top of the hill down to where, from the first riser, down to wherever you want to stop it.
Now, do they Y pipe into each other coming down the hill?
Yes, they Y into it, and then they put a restrictor, so that otherwise if you had that much, it could come through there and actually fill the next terrace channel.
Yes.
Because there'd be so much water coming in.
The camera technically doesn't do it justice, but it's got a pretty good grade to what we're going down even right now.
Yes.
We're kind of going like nose diving. Do you have very much problems with erosion then?
Yes. Have to be careful you don't work too much. I no-till everything to keep as much material on the ground as I can, so that it'll hold the soil. And some of those corn stalks might be even from, could be from 5 years ago.
Oh, jeez. I recently heard you mention something on how the guidance steering, you, especially because you have the 3-point, it'll grab. Is that meaning when you have the lines that you're planting down here and the mapping up there, would it just jerk over?
Yes, we're going to be coming next to where I planted here. So that is going to have a tendency to want to pick up the old mark. So you really have to be careful. You have to be watching your screen up here. Plus, you have to be ready to adjust the steering in case it takes off. And because with a 3-point planter, you don't want to put that much of a twist. That's very hard on the disc openers. When I put the end rows in, I used the markers because I didn't want this here. Well, then after I got going, I called my tech guy and he told me how to take care of that. But if I would have used the GPS here, I'd have to stop, change programs, and then go again. So I figured it'd be easier just to put the marker down because there's no hill, nothing's going to wash here. So easier just to use the markers.
Well, it's not like it was that way before we had all this fancy computer stuff. You had to do it this way. If you didn't,
that's right.
Everything was screwed up.
All you had was this mark. And then when you come to a curve up here, then you have to use Kentucky windage, as they call it. And you have to allow for what you think that it's going to move. What you can kind of do too is watch where your front wheels are and try to keep them, close to that line. You're going to have to fudge here to keep me at 30 inches. I have to...
Because you're doing this part by hand.
Yes.
Well, Tom, I think this is some really great information to at least open us up. We got a lot of great knowledge. We didn't really screw up too much. And I didn't bug you a lot.
Now here, you can watch this screen right here. As we're coming into these point rows, it will shut the rows off. And you can also watch on this one here. You can see the rows, the red, that means it's not planting. So it just keeps working right away across there.
I think we'll let you get back to your day, so that way you can finish all this up and you don't have to sit here and waste more fuel. How about that?
That is fine.
Thank you, Tom. It was a pleasure.
Chandler, thank you.
Absolutely.
Anytime.
Moving on to the other family, we weren't able to really go out and look at the other planters, just kind of scheduling got all knocked off, but we are going to take a quick gander at Project 130. Kindly also using our big camera on the side, we'll get a couple extra shots, but this is the starter mechanism. You got to make sure the key is set to run, and then of course, you know, out of gear and parking on, because you don't want to roll away. Might help if it's not cold. Pull the choke, and get a little bit of that. Choke about halfway. Ow, she purrs like a kitten. And we're gonna have to work with this because it just rained quite a bit, almost 2 inches last night. Plus the wind is not in my favor. I want to show you guys some of the cool features on that mower of how it actually operates. When we come to look at the side of the tractor, our power takeoff is this belt system drive that goes underneath. In order to activate this, there is a lever right yonder that you have to pull straight back in order for the tractor's PTO to engage. So please excuse the wind. Putting in our PTO, just like a regular one, the PTO will run off of the engine RPM, but there's no variation to it. The mower will have to operate at the speed of the engine. It's a one speed takes all. Give her a rip. We are cutting grass. Got a cut on our way back, and we should be on our way over to Farm Sim 25. While someone like Tom knows a lot about farming, getting into the industry is not quite as easy. Tractors are expensive, land can cost a fortune, and we can't even scratch the surface on the limitations and knowledge it takes to actually farm correctly. But luckily, thanks to the Gate 2 adventure powered by G2A, you can experience the wonders of the world with just a click of your finger. G2A is the world's best digital marketplace where you can find some of your absolute favorite game titles just like Farming Simulator at the best price, giving you less stress to find you the best deal and ensuring that your hard-earned cash puts you into the endless world of simulation. See what I did there? A special thanks to G2A for sponsoring today's episode, but the question still lingers. How does Farming Simulator stack up to the real thing? Let's load up and head south to try it out for ourselves. With limitations of mods, I tried my absolute best to get a similar setup we have from John Deere, the 1720 16-row planter, as there was an option to get a 12-row, but they were 36-inch spacing, so really just chop off these two and that makes the planter. But this is an 8345R, and we're going to give it just a couple different tests to really gauge how realistic can farm sim be in order to real life. When we head up to our PDA, there is one mod that just came out that so conveniently gives us so much more of an insight to what Tom was talking about. Precision farming allows us to dive deeper into how farming actually works with soil types, pH levels, nitrogen, yield, and seed rate. When Tom mentioned the pH of the soil was at 7, that is this number right here. If our field was at perfect levels, we would want our field to be right at that number. But I think when I knock off the majority of the digits, we are at about 6.25 to 6.5, meaning this field will need lime to help with the acidity of the soil. Nitrogen, we're looking at somewhere about the 40. If we wanted to run corn, we would need to be somewhere up in this range. Yield, we have no data because I haven't harvested anything. And seed rate, kind of the same thing, haven't planted. The GPS on this field is not as complex as, say, one of Tom's because we have it set to one headland and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows. That one line just off to the right side of my hood is exactly what he was talking about, that if you weren't careful, the tractor's GPS would bite to the right, and you do not want to put that pressure on these row units because the planter is hooked directly to the back of the tractor. With the vacuum system turned on and the GPS activated, we have the planter set for corn. Kind of clearly tell that it is showing the same level of texturization as Tom's planter did. This field was tilled prior to the start of this episode, but once we get to the end, this is where we're going to have to raise up. In Farm Sim, you could just rip this thing around the corner like no one's business and no one would care. But we also do not have row shutoffs. So when I roll through this, it's just replanting that entire end row. In real time, that would be a nightmare to harvest when coming around the bend. If you are to use in Farm Sim what's called the row crop ready mod, you would have an exact replication of what I just said. The end rows would be so meshed together, it would be so confusing to follow the rows with the combine. But that terminology Tom used called the Kentucky wind, I've never heard that, but as simple as he put it, you just have to guide the tractor and lead the planter where you want it to go. Once I get the tractor off of GPS, I need to pull it just far enough up that I can get the next row started without missing anything, and I would overlap my previous pass. I really do have to thank Thomas for all of that knowledge that he was willing to share with me. If you guys ever meet somebody like that in life, please cherish them. The amount of knowledge that I could learn from that man, and he was part of Project 56 when I was trying to get my transmission back up and running. He's such a great fellow, and I'm so glad that he really wanted to be a part of this project. We do not have 3/4 of the monitors Thomas had on his setup, with the seed tank monitor, the precision planting, which those do exist as add-ons, but it has to be modified into the vehicle's code for the game, aka computer scripting. This field is relatively mild when it comes to its contour, but I do want to take this into the ditch and see if the wings have flex. I know that the individual row units do have their up and down play, but something that is crucial is, does the planter have give on the two wing sections? For scientific purposes only, setting it down, the row unit should, yes, kind of give like a bow, but do the wings have any give? No, they do not. This is where on Tom's planter, or any planter for that matter, the wings themselves would then begin to bow up, giving the flex that the planter needs to accurately plant the seed without missing any kernels. Something that I also learned while listening to Tom is that certain areas also need to have enough down pressure to get the seed far enough down into the soil. Farm Sim, you do not have to worry about that. Literally all you have to do is just lower the planter, press B, and set your GPS. Real time, you have a lot more input. You heard the man himself. It takes him half a day just to get the monitor set up, and we missed it, but he took another half day to set the corn back from beans to corn because the ground was too wet. Okay, prime example. I tried to go to that line, but it wants to go to the headland pass. Now that we reset, drop the planter, and plant away. I really didn't think that the GPS was that much of a problem like it is in Farm Sim as it is in real life. That's so cool how those two correspond. One last pass should do it for us. Never mind, there is one other little blip. And according to our variable seed rate up in the top left, it looks like we are heavy on the seed. I want to double check that. Yes. With the different soil types, the top half of the field is sandy loam, with the bottom half being clay, silty clay to be exact. So our seed rate is high on the bottom and a standard on the top side. Having precision farming really does help make the comparison video a lot more accurate. And with one more drop of the planter, we have successfully planted corn in a video game. In regards to the test plots that he was talking about when the co-op came out to spray lime and the pH was bad, a tool in Farm Sim is the one that goes on the back of a Sidekick, an ATV, a Gator, whatever you want to use. But this is where they take a soil sample and identify the field data to where you can understand what's happening with your ground. A lot of guys around here, unless I am unaware, would not use a tool like this. But it's simply put, down in the bottom left, you can see the giant green circle. If I drive to an area and want to collect data, I'd get it in line, and then the machine itself will take a core sample, putting dirt into the cup, which we'd send off to the lab, and X amount of days later, we would receive all of the data you just saw in the pause menu. but we're gonna head back over to the main farmyard to go and check out the tiny 130 Farmall. This little tractor most certainly has a handful of quirks and features, but easily put, my favorite little one is that it's my size. It's fun-sized. As you guys saw, we went over kind of how the mower itself functions. I am curious, do they have the lever by the seat? No, they do not. So it's missing its PTO engaging lever, and it is also missing the hydraulic remotes that lift and raise the mower deck. I wonder if that is because it has the ability to put this on the rear. Maybe. Ah, it still is, but it's all off the left side. So it does have the remotes, they're just kind of positioned differently. If we pop on, it literally looks the exact same. They got the 4-speed transmission correct. And the mower deck underneath this is not the accurate Woods mower, but rather a 72-inch finish cut utility tractor mower. Something that would go under a tractor like the 3R, which is why it has the Bluetooth connections. And our first knock on the tractor is that back PTO piece, this would be with the lever engaged, meaning that the mower is active. To further expand on how the clutch system works, once you enable that lever on the left side of the seat, the tractor's PTO will only go as fast as the engine is spinning and can be disconnected and connected by the clutch. If the tractor's throttle is on the halfway point and you let the clutch out fully in first gear, the tractor will only go as fast as first gear, but also the mower deck will only go as fast as the throttle is set. It technically might not make sense in explanation, but go down a hillside in third gear with the mower deck all the way on and you'll see real quickly what I mean. When I work on Project 130, it is certainly not going to look this clean when it is done. I would say, in conclusion to our overview of comparing Farming Simulator to real life, the video game variant can only be as real as the coding, modding, and gameplay lets it be. Without any modifications added to the game, Farming Simulator is probably not as realistic. While advanced, it has its quirks. But with mods like Precision Farming, where we can see all of these super important analytical data sheets, and highly detailed game modifications like the planter, John Deere tractor, and any additional pieces of equipment that help in the process, a video game's presentation can match real-life workplay in a pretty good manner without all of the in-depth whistles that would make the game boring, or more or less super duper confusing. I would really like to thank you guys all for tuning into today's episode, and if you'd like to see more videos either in real life or in Farming Simulator, be sure to head down below, smash that like button, consider dropping a subscribe, and while you're at it, check out the remaining playlists that might be found in the top right-hand corner. That is all I have for you guys today. Always remember to keep it light, keep it loose, keep it fresh, and most importantly, keep it fun. This is the Rental Man out. Peace.